I'll call the meeting at 6:30. I'll call the meeting to order. All rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda as written.
Second.
All right. The agenda is approved. Arla is excused. She is out sick, and Nick should be here momentarily. So let's start off. Jackie, you got the sheets. All right. That's not. You can wait. Because that's not on the agenda. Stay right there. All right. So Brad, you want to come up and speak to the board?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to talk fast because I've got 180 seconds, so if I talk too fast, please slow me down. I'm trying to get information on things before I get angry and frustrated, so the best way is to talk to the people with the thing to know. 1,140 days ago, my wife passed away, and my family decided to disintegrate. In doing so, I've lived in this county for over 18 years. My tax burden is about $3,000 a year just for education in the school system alone. With that, 1 year ago, actually not even a year ago, my son came to North Mason High School to attend his sophomore year. He went to North Kitsap prior to that. He missed 9 days. I tried to get truancy. I was told, nope, not enough days. 18 days, nope, not enough days. At 50-some days, I missed the opportunity. Don't know how I did, but that's North Kitsap. He then got transferred to North Mason, which is right around the corner for me. Made things a lot easier. With everything, you're supposed to tell the school, hey, what your problems are, or we're supposed to sit here and ask for help. I asked for help. I said, here's what my son is doing, here's what his problems are. He fails to go to school, I need your help. We enrolled him into school, away we go. He misses 7 days. I talked to the school. Sorry, the teachers have checked out. I would love to have a job where I can check out because I still get paid. It's amazing. So then the next year, so now we're starting this year. He's now a junior going to North Mason. He misses like 2-3 days, nothing. Now, mind you, my son has ran away 5 times. He's stolen a car. He's threatened to commit suicide. He's done a whole bunch of things that I'm trying to deal with. I need help. So then when I'm sitting here and he's a junior, missing 3 days, nope, he's not there. 4 days, all of a sudden he's showing up to school. Great. Where is he? Oh, he's here. Are you sure? Yes. Are you sure he even goes to your school still? Nope, he doesn't. He goes to the online education. So my question about online education is, there's what's called the intent to homeschool. And there's a parent signature. I want to know, does it say parent signature? Are you referring to the noun parent or the verb parent? Because my signature is nowhere on there.
Well, if you may,
Go ahead.
I would like to find out more information from you so I can get the information from the school and we can talk about it. And I would contact you first thing in the morning if that's okay.
That would be great, because the irony that I find is that you have a registrar, Carrie Porter. I've happened to know her for 18-some years every Sunday morning. Never once did she call or talk to me.
Okay.
For your distant education, you have Lexi Hadfield. Her husband and I went out to sea together. I doubt she remembers me, but she knew my wife.
Okay.
Not a phone call. So I'm curious on how all these people who know who I am never once called the parent.
Well, I can't answer that unless I ask them, but I will. And I would love to talk to you first thing in the morning, if that's okay with you.
It's perfectly okay, but if I could get for the intent to homeschool,
Yeah.
was your intent as the noun or the verb?
Well, we have the online program, which is not considered homeschooling. So I'm not sure how to answer the question at this point in time without finding out more information. When parents fill out an intent to homeschool, that's when they're going to take charge of the entire learning opportunity for their kids. When they participate in our online school, they're still registered as a North Mason student, just at the online school as opposed to the on-campus school.
So how do I find all that out? Because what I know is he's online. What I know is he had to get that form filled out. What I know is it says parent or guardian. What I know is I didn't sign it.
Okay. And I hear you, and I have to look into how that happened. And I'm going to talk to the principals involved and talk to you first thing in the morning after I get that information from them so that we can solve this problem together.
Got it. How would you like to get my name and number?
If you can give it to Jackie, since I don't have something to write down, she will take it and I will have it so I can talk to you in the morning.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and
I appreciate it, Brad.
You
I'm
see,
sorry
you're
that you're having this experience.
From the board's perspective, I'm sorry that this is going on, okay? When you follow up with Dana, I will follow up with you, okay? Please leave your number in there, and I will personally call you and make sure you have been handled, okay?
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. All right, and that is the only public comment that we have on student board member comments. Emily, start with you.
Bowling made it to districts.
Okay.
Knowledge Bowl placed 7th in their tournament. Other than that, there's not much. We have an MLK assembly tomorrow, and then we have a winter formal assembly on Friday to crown the court that was picked. And the dance is February 8th.
Okay. Very good. Sophia?
Basketball is not going to state. 4 weeks, but we're doing pretty good, I think. Let's see. Not much else. I made state for DECA, and that's it.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And yeah, that's all.
All right. Next up is a consent agenda, so I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Any discussion? All right. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the consent agenda is approved. So we'll move on to the James Taylor program presentation.
Hi again, everyone. I am here to share some of the great things that are happening at James Taylor and update you guys on our MBLC work that we've been working really hard on all year. So as we move into mastery-based learning, our students are learning that it's not easy and that it requires hard work. Some of them would say, this is not what I thought I signed up for. So we are starting to showcase effective practices implementing culturally responsive and sustaining mastery-based learning, and that's what we get funded on to do some of the project-based learning stuff that we're doing. So right now we are working to refine systems. We're developing and sharing tools and resources between our staff at our building and other schools across the state of Washington to support one another in this mastery-based learning approach. So right now we are kind of in an intense period of professional development. So we are meeting every Friday with our MBLC coach for a couple hours in addition to our monthly meetings, and then some of us are able to attend in-person sessions. We just have to split so we have enough staff to cover our building. So we have a few core beliefs, and number one is that all students can and will learn when they are feeling included, respected, and valued by their learning community. So our students are all known as individuals and learners, and we are working on developing positive relationships with one another and between students and adults in the building. The curriculum in the classroom honor our student identities and their interests. So at the beginning of every course, actually before the students are enrolled, they take a student survey based on their needs and interests, and then the course is tailored a little bit more to the individual needs of those students. So for example, in culinary class, one of our students really likes to bake Dutch babies. So that has been incorporated into the baking unit so he could feel a little bit of leadership and empowerment and share his knowledge of that skill with the other students in that course. And then we are actively working to kind of uncover and eliminate system inequities that the school system just inertly has. And we are making steps in redesigning systems to change that for our students so they all have an equitable chance at learning. Number two is that all students must be challenged, they must be believed in, and supported to reach common high expectations. Going into an alternative school does not mean you're getting a less than education. You are meeting the same learning standards as all the other students in the state of Washington are expected to learn. And part of our MBLC work is making sure that our learning outcomes are always clearly articulated and applied to all students. We're reiterating them all of the time throughout the day. And some of those are long-term learning goals, and some of them are short-term learning goals that align with our portrait of a graduate, like habits of work. All students are engaged in complex thinking and addressing questions like why and how, and the application of skills and knowledge through that learning process. So example, one of the class pets, Albert the fish, died, and students are in environmental science right now, so now they're examining the water quality that Albert has lived in and trying to figure out what caused his death. That's kind of their overarching question for their unit. And then they have extensions of their learning, and they have opportunities to revise. So if they turn in something and it's not meeting standard, or it's not meeting at the standard, the level the student or teacher wants, they get pretty quick feedback, and they have opportunities to meet with that teacher and either revise the assignment or show that they've mastered that content in a different way. Moving on to belief number 3, student learning is enhanced by clear cycles of practice, feedback, assessment, and reflection. So all of our assessments are now in alignment to our competencies that you saw in our portrait of a graduate, as well as the academic standards. Habits of work are assessed and reported separately from academics. So it's on a very similar rubric, but it's two-sided. So they have their habits of work on one side and the standards on the other. So students can always see where they are in relation to another and see kind of how those habits of work lead to mastery of those standards. And they're getting feedback, including grades, not just on their competencies, quickly and often. And for the way we do courses, 1 every 6 weeks, they're getting it sometimes multiple times a day to make adjustments. And then at the end of the day, students have time to reflect on their learning, reflect on their practice, and see maybe what changes need to happen for the next day. And then belief number 4 is students are empowered and engaged by choice in their learning experience. So although we have our overarching question, like for Albert the fish, if students would like to pursue a different area in the world of water quality, because that's their overarching question, they can. The avenue to that standard can change, the standard does not change. So all learning pathways are learned to those common standards. We encourage learning in different ways and at different paces for all of our students. Our teachers are working on different ways of differentiating that for different students to include choice and personalized learning to meet those outcomes. And then students get to make some of the decisions about how they're going to learn and how they're going to demonstrate that they've known that. And that's where those choice projects come in for their overarching question. So I have some pictures. This is some of the kids in culinary in our first student cohort. They are making cinnamon rolls right here. So these are mostly our 9th and 10th graders. We have a few 11th graders that might need the culinary arts credit. And what's really awesome this year is that we now have a CTE teacher at James Taylor, so our students are earning the culinary arts CTE credits, and we'll add on next year to complete that pathway. So of our implementation plan this year, we started with 9th and 10th graders. Next year, we are adding 11th grade cohort classes, and you'll see those later in the year when they go up for approval. 26-27, we will add our senior classes. So by the year 26-27, James Taylor High School will be almost entirely project-based and mastery-based learning, and Edmentum will only be used for supplemental curriculum for some of the elective classes and foreign language classes that we don't have certifications in our building to teach. And so it's a little bit tiny, but right now we have Algebra 1, Study Skills, Geometry and Art, and Intro to AF&R. So in Algebra 1, students get a full credit of a full credit of algebra. Study Skills, they earned a half credit of Study Skills and then a half credit of either English 9 or 10, depending on the grade of that student and their credit needs. Geometry and Art, they earned a credit and a half. One of geometry and 0.5 of an art form called cubism. And then Intro to AF&R is the exact same class that they have at the high school for AF&R. And students are earning a 1.0 credit in CTE, and actually we've been able to work out so they can go up and use the greenhouse when the high school's not using it as well. Currently, we have students in environmental science and culinary arts, depending on their need. They'll switch next year. So students are earning a 1.0 lab science and 0.5 of the other English they didn't get at the beginning of the year, because they are also doing a book study in that class. Culinary arts, students are earning intro and advanced credits there. Minecraft is starting in March, and that's going to be computer science, and students will be learning logic coding and some other computer apps. And then we have financial math and literacy coming up at the end of the year, where students will get their 1.0 in financial math, either for CTE or their third year math or an elective. So courses that are coming up, we are working on adding business communications to be a CTE business course or to satisfy an English credit, because it is state equivalency from OSPI. Our goal is also to get it articulated with OC so students can earn college credits, and we have that goal for culinary for next year also. Course number 2, we don't have a definitive title, but it will be something around natural disaster preparation and response. And that course will combine human geography and then a 1.0 science selective on earth science. So the students will study the various natural disasters and then come up with and how they impact the human race, and then they'll come up with some sort of safety or mitigation plans for that as their overarching project, and their choice will be which disaster they're going to prep for. And then we are either going to add foods around the world or baking and pastries. That's already articulated, or not articulated, approved from the high school, and we have those frameworks. So we'll add that over to James Taylor. So students in culinary this year have the opportunity to complete that pathway. So we're currently in the middle of our 2-year PD plan, and we receive our training from the Great Schools Partnership out of the East Coast. And right now, our work is heavily focused on systems and revamping our systems, because in the words of Mel Robbins, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And that is very true. So a lot of our work on Fridays is how do we refine our system as a building? And then how do we individualize those classroom systems to support student need? So our overall goals for this year, to wrap out the year, to improve our systems for student feedback and expectations. We have our student advisory panel selected, and we should start meeting in February with our advisory panel once a month to get their feedback and input. We are working on rubric development, so we have quick formative assessments that we can give our students and they can keep and track their own progress. And then we're working on developing community partnerships so we can have students work with our community members and industries to start solving some real world problems. So here, just to close, here are a few pictures of our students in action. Some of these kids in our culinary class have never touched an oven, and some are well versed, and the expectation is that they are cooking for their family at least once a week. So there's quite a gamut that our teacher is working with, and they're coming from all skill sets. And if you come into our building on any given day, it smells pretty darn good by the afternoon. And we're building confidence. So like I said, some of our students have never touched a stove or an oven. And watching these kids grow in their confidence and share their skills and their excitement has been really, really fun. Every single one of the students in culinary has their food handler's card this year. Like I said, next year our goal is to articulate our culinary teacher with OC, and then our students who take those courses next year will earn 17 credits in culinary arts from Olympic College. That is kind of the update on our James Taylor MBLC work.
Very good.
Can you tell me what AFNR stands for?
Agriculture, farming, and natural resources.
Very cool. I just have to say that the noodles that came home, my son is enrolled in the culinary down there and in the thing, the school. And I'm not gonna finish.
Yeah, they did a good job.
Noodles
All
or
those
just
noodles
so
were cut
good?
by hand. They did a good job.
Pretty neat when your kid, I mean, might take him a bit, but they did chicken today.
They spatchcocked the
With
chicken.
a rub, and he came and told me about it, and it's pretty cool. So that's your feedback.
Sounds like it's pretty good there, Lexi.
All right.
I get to try some of it too when he brings stuff home, and it's
Yeah. All
pretty
right.
neat.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Inclusive education presentation.
She's a bit of a crier. Talk about our kids.
I'll follow that one
Yeah,
now.
why-
Yeah.
Thank you. There you go. I was looking for those earlier.
All right. Good evening. I'm Amber Nygaard, Director of Inclusive Education. Thank you for having me tonight. First, I'd like to thank you and honor and recognize it's School Board Recognition Month. So as we're wrapping up the month, thank you for all of your time and commitment. This year is an extra year for all that you are doing. So I appreciate the open dialogue, the support that you give us, and the support along with the accountability that you offer us, because we want to serve the students well, our community well, and when you ask us questions that provoke thought, it makes us want to do better. So thank you for that. All right, so inclusive education, it is a department that changes names often, but what we do is we serve students and the subgroups of students that we want to ensure that they belong, and we put extra emphasis, and the laws require that we put supports in place to serve all of our students, but inclusivity means a lot of different things. I just wanted to highlight different parts of our programs as we get the opportunity to do throughout the year. We're required to have a continuum of services for special education throughout the district, and the continuum of services we're going to talk about it in a least restrictive environment definition. And we can do different things through LRE, but we can place students into different environments because the state funds us based on those LRE placements. But we're big in our district that just placement into a class is not appropriate. There is a definition that goes with LRE, and so we want to make sure that students are exceeding and meeting their expectations in there and excelling, not just having a seat in an environment. I'm also going to talk about what direct services are and what the acronyms are. I call it alphabet soup. And then what our goals are for inclusive education for this year and then leading into next year. So those are our highlights for the presentation this evening. To start with our continuum of services, we have Mary E. Feller Early Learning Center. I often talk to Dana about probably one of the highest accolades that I would say that her time here with North Mason is the development of our Early Learning Center. It's a gem in our community. And having that location that we have for the center, while it comes with its challenges with all of the habitat that surrounds it and the location, it's a center that a lot of different school districts do not have. We serve students from 3 years old to 5-year-olds there, and to have an early learning center that families can go to and get the needs of their students met is just really special for North Mason. So at that center, we serve our developmental preschool. We currently serve 15 students, and what's special about the Early Learning Center is it is constantly an ebb and flow of services. So it is always changing, and we're constantly reevaluating students. We get to know them more every day, and then we go back to the reevaluation cycle. So we have 15 students that either come either in the AM or the PM, and they are just precious when they come in. And our team there is constantly reevaluating what is the best service, what is the best supports that they need, and how can we serve them in their full capacity and needs. And when I first came in this role, some students were coming 1 day a week, some were coming 2 days a week, and by the time they hit 5 years old and were getting ready to go to kindergarten, some of them were not attending 5 hours a week, but all but one student currently is attending 4 days a week already at this time, and that's really awesome. So they're getting the full scope of services that they can. We accept students into the preschool that meet 2 of the 3 areas of need, and that's adaptive, social emotional, and or communication. We also serve students in itinerant speech services, so that's that families bring students at different times that just need speech and communication. And they've been doing a really great job of finding ways to get them to have small group speech services, so it's not just one-to-one. So they're exposed to rich communication and other peers at the same age, so that they are getting exposure to other communication styles, not just with their teacher. Right now we have 9 students that are coming in for drive-in services and itinerant. And then we do our transition to kinder, and I think we spoke about it at the beginning of the year that we screened over 82 students in the community that were looking for transition to kindergarten placement. And so that was a lot of students wanting into this program. We have space for 34 students. And so that was a lot of phone calls of disappointed families that were really looking forward to going into full day transition to kinder. Unfortunately, the state does not fund us for all of those classrooms or spaces, but those 34 students are doing amazing from where they start at the beginning of the year to be kinder ready. And we tag them and track their data as they leave transition to kinder and go throughout our school system. And they are going into kindergarten further than kinder ready when they leave transition to kinder. Another thing that we're super proud of is 2 years ago when I came into the role, students with IEPs were not in transition to kinder classes. They stayed in the developmental preschool. Now this year, 41% of the students, of those 34 students, have IEPs that are in the transition to kinder. So we've increased inclusivity to that capacity. So we're really proud of that, their early learning. So moving from 3 to 5 year olds, our kinder through 12th plus grade. Next slide, Jackie. Thank you. We're going to talk for LRE 1, 2, and 3, and I put the percentages there. So when we talk about LRE, least restrictive environment, that is when students are being served with their gen ed peers. 80 to 100% of their day is students are being served in their gen ed classroom with accommodations per their IEP. So right now we have 319 students, and that changed from our very first slide where we have about 391 or about 350 students in North Mason to 319 because that's not inclusive of our early learning center. So that's where that number changed. So 78% of our students district-wide are being served in LRE 1. So most of them are getting those supports with just accommodations, 80% or more in their gen ed classroom. And with accommodations, and sometimes a para might go into support, but primarily it's through their IEP with the gen ed teacher doing those supports for them. And then we have 18% of our students with an LRE 2 status, where they're getting small group support, or they pop into what we call a flexible learning environment, where some parts of their day they need to be pulled out into a small group or a small group environment for more intensified instruction. And then we have our LRA 3, which is more of our functional life skills or adaptive programs, and that's about 4% of our students. And that sometimes it's like our self-contained programs where our students really are getting more of their education in a small confined place because that is what is the most restrictive. And the least restrictive environment sometimes is the most restrictive because they will achieve more and they are getting more supports that is more maintaining their dignity, but also serving them the best manner that we can. Two other programs that we have in our district is our Deaf and Hard of Hearing program that we send 3 students currently to Tacoma. And we actually send those to Tacoma. That is an expense. I did kind of write some prices down here. Just Dan often, when he's doing our budget reports, talks about how our MSOCs have increased so drastically. Those are contracted costs that don't come out of our staffing costs for special education. They actually go into our MSOCs costs because they're contracted. And so the costs that we don't get funded, I get timed out at meetings lately. We put Steve as a timekeeper at meetings. So one of those additional costs, when we ensure that we are putting a student in the least restrictive environment, and we are required by law to offer FAPE, so what is the best services for them, sometimes we cannot meet that with the size of our district, so we will send kids out of district. So 3 of our students that we would serve here in our district if we had the appropriate services, we actually pay over $250,000 right now for those 3 students to be driven daily to Tacoma School District because they have a really outstanding deaf and hard of hearing program. And so that's a commitment to ensure that they have proper services there. And then we do talk often here about our adulting in our community program, and that's our 18 to 22-year-old program. And we have 8 students that are currently being served in our adulting in our community program. So those are our continuum of services that we have currently through our district in our inclusive ed department. One program that we're super proud of, with the blessing that we've had to start, we realized that continuum of services was not serving our students to the full extent. We used to send some students to Madrona, the Kids Up Mental Health program that has a school program. But we didn't like that. We would have to wait until we had students that hit 3rd grade that had some substantial mental health challenges or that just their behavioral needs warranted a different placement that just we could not meet their needs. We don't like outsourcing our students. We want them here with us because often a lot of those students never return to us. They weren't ever exposed to a rich continuum of services or a comprehensive school program so that they knew how to return back to the school district. So this year we launched Pathways to Inclusion, and it is housed at Sandhill Elementary. It currently is serving 7 students. With that program, we have added a BCBA and 2 RBTs to the program. It has a special education teacher in there and a paraeducator. The next section I'll talk about what BCBAs and RBTs are, part of that alphabet soup there. But with those 7 students, we've been able to increase a lot of those students to full day attendance, where a lot of them had a lot of severe behavioral challenges that they were not able to maintain a full day of attendance. They were being sent home or suspended majority of their days because they just were unsafe and not able to be at school. Students are beginning to integrate into gen ed classes and start to be around their gen ed peers and increasing their LRE. Classroom culture is evident when you go in there. It is really absolutely adorable to see them partnering with their classmates where they used to work in isolation and not be able to interact. They didn't have the communication skills or behavioral skills to be able to work together. Their increased communication access, which was one of the goals, is to teach them appropriate behavioral and communication skills. So a lot of them are using communication devices or PECs or communication skills with visual aids and signals and gestures so that they are communicating their needs rather using behavioral avenues to communicate, so that they are communicating with their peers and adults. And then we're using the specialized staffing to support the program participants to also support paraeducators, classroom teachers, and they're also teaching us as other staff how to interact with the students, the community resources, and support the parents as well, so that the students are much more successful. So I would say this year, the addition of Pathways has been extremely something to be proud of, but it's also been really great to see the students. The transfer of skills has been great. There's one little guy, and I shouldn't say little, he's not a little guy, but he's a 3rd grader. When I went and was working with him, just to share a quick story, he wanted to show me to work with him on origami, and I said it's super frustrating with me, so he gave me his break card and told me that if you get frustrated, you can use my break card because that's what I have to do sometimes. And so that's how you know the strategies are successful, when he's transferring those and offering them to me, so that if I get frustrated that I could use those too. So it was super cute, so that he wasn't throwing a chair or a table, which he's very capable of doing. He's offering me a break card too. So I know that there's some great successes there. The next part is about our direct services. This is something I am, in my role, learning a lot about. And when I presented the last time, I brought Chantel Wisner because she's the knower of all things and she can keep us all in check. But acronyms, I used to just write down through meetings all of the initials that everybody would write, and then I'd Google them later so that I didn't have to ask stupid questions. But I'm learning all of these, and in fact, when we did training this summer with admin, we did a little puzzle of, what are all of these acronyms mean, because every career has its own acronyms. So I jotted down what all of these direct services are, and to throw a number out here of our contracted services, where special education right now in legislature, that's one of our big asks, is so underfunded. Right now, we are projected just for our direct services this year and our contracted staffing of people that these are hard to fill roles that we cannot get staff to directly hire because they are very specialized roles to hire directly through school districts. We are projected right now at $2,327,688 for just these roles that are listed on this slide. These are our supplementary and related services that our students are required to receive to help them gain access to their free, appropriate public education through their IEPs. So these are not areas that we can cut corners, that we can say that they don't need these services. So when we say we need this funding, These are not areas that we can say write it out of the IEP, because if it's necessary to help them, these are areas. So when we go down the line there, we have our OTs and our CODAs, so our occupational therapists and our certified occupational therapist assistants. Currently, our occupational therapist lives in Arkansas, I believe, and then our CODA she's actually here on school grounds. She's a ray of sunshine, Kate Perkins, and she serves our whole district. So we have one of each of those roles that serve all of our students in North Mason. We have 2 RNs, registered nurses in our district currently, and they both are contracted as well. We have 1 physical therapist that covers through our district as well. They are contracted through the ESD. She, not they. School psychologists required by law. We cannot make a referral for a special education evaluation without the approval of a school psychologist. And they do all of our cognitive evaluations as well as our social emotional evaluations. Finding out from other districts, we are the only district that I have met with through our cohort that our special ed teachers do the academic evaluations, where other districts, the psychs, do those. And that's in just this area. Our psychs, we don't have enough of them that they could actually do that part of it. So they partner really well with our teams here at North Mason, and it takes all of them to do the evaluations. We have 4, 2.5s and a 0.6 and another 0.4. So that requires them to be all over the place and then serve other districts as well and learn their systems. SLP, SLPA, speech language pathologists and speech language pathologist assistants. TVI, teacher of the visually impaired. We actually have 3 students that meet that need, and we have O&M, occupation and mobility, and they come and help students go out into the community and learn, especially those students that have visual impairments. Audiologists, our BCBAs is a board certified behavior analyst, and then RBTs, registered behavior therapists. We used to contract with somebody, and then when students' behaviors were really, really challenging, we're considering that maybe this district isn't the right placement, we would bring somebody in, they would kind of give us a behavior plan, and then would say, you need to send them away to a different school or placement. We decided, let's bring them here, let's get the skill set here within our district instead of having to outsource. And so that's why we have them here within our building. They primarily are currently serving at the Pathways program, which has helped us keep our students here. And then as that student becomes more and more established, then they can help support in other buildings as well. And then our goals for inclusive education is I want to continue to increase building partnerships with their special ed programming, just continue to provide professional development, work with our building administrators, our case managers, and all of our direct services so that as we're working as a team, we're building our capacity to work in a well-rounded program, especially as we continue to have flexibility in our staffing as it always fluid. Improve student achievement in all academic areas. I think that is for all of our students. We're always focusing on increased academic achievement, but also as inclusive ed is the area that I'm focused on, I want to make sure that any student with an IEP is also achieving at the same levels. Clear program parameters. So I want to continue to work on a handbook and make sure that there's guidance for my team so that they know the A through Z on the to-dos and support so they know where to go to get their answers. Recruiting of direct hires for contracted staffing so that people want to work here at North Mason and that we maintain our staff and continuity so that this is a place that people desire to stay and work for us, and that contracting agencies aren't so appealing for people. To mitigate those costs. And then I want to really improve our clear transition planning for 16-year-olds and up. We're going to be doing a self-audit this year that the OSPI has sent to us, but I also want to make that meaningful and improve our transition schedules so that it's not just when you turn 18 that you go to adulting in our community, that we have very clear guidance on what type of transition plan a student has and what their post-secondary plan is, so that we know when they leave us that they have very clear schedules and goals to achieve when they are leaving the program. So, any
Very good.
questions?
I was curious about the pathways to inclusion. You said that's 7 students now. Do you foresee that growing, or?
That is part of what we are working on, those clear parameters. We have to cap it at 8 to 10 students, as it needs to be a very coveted space.
Yeah.
It wouldn't serve its purpose if it were to grow. The minute people started hearing about it, we started getting phone calls from people out of district hearing about it and saying, how do I get my kid in there? And it needs to be a very limited access, per se, of if it was a child that we felt like we did not have the capacity to serve, that maybe was, it's not a behavioral program, but if we do not have the skill set for those students yet to be safely participating in a dignified way with their gen ed peers, that's how we would determine their placement in that program.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That helps.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Thank you, Amber.
Thank you.
All right, so next on the agenda, do we want to take a 5-minute recess to take a break for a second? Something new we added to the agenda just to have a check marker.
I love it. I don't need it now, but
Okay.
I can't. I
No,
can't
just
wait,
asking, do you
so
want
I'm
to keep
good,
pushing
yeah.
through, or? Okay,
I do
So-
like the idea. Thank you.
or, so we're just gonna push through? Are we good with that? Okay. All right, so on to the superintendent update.
So the first thing on the, it's okay, Kyle. The first thing on the teaching and learning update is it is School Board Appreciation Month. And as each January when we come to this month, I get the honor of reading to you the Governor's Proclamation to officially honor our school board, although we've been trying to do that in social media and other ways throughout the month. But the Governor's Proclamation reads, whereas the mission of Washington's public school system is to ensure that all students achieve at high levels and possess the knowledge and skills to be responsible members of a democratic society and enjoy productive and satisfying lives. And whereas Washington's 295 locally elected school boards of directors and 9 elected Educational Service District, ESD boards, are the core of the public education governance system in our state, and whereas the districts and regions that they lead serve more than 1.1 million students, have a combined annual budget of over $20 billion, and employ approximately 125,345 people. And whereas school directors play a crucial role in promoting student learning and achievement by creating a vision, establishing policies and budgets, and setting clear standards of accountability for all involved. And whereas school directors are directly accountable to the residents in their districts and regions, serving as a vital link between members of the community and their schools. And whereas school directors and ESDs provide a passionate voice of advocacy for public schools and the welfare of school children. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize school board directors as outstanding public servants and champions for public education, now therefore I, Bob Ferguson, Governor of the State of Washington, do hereby proclaim January 2025 as School Board Recognition Month in Washington, and I encourage all people in our state to join me in this special observance. Thank you all for your service on behalf of our children. There's nothing that we could do or give you that would say our thanks well enough, but we will give you a certificate this month to say thank you, and we appreciate your service. Congratulations. got one last year. I think it's in a little plaque on my wall. Not gonna lie. Yes, she'd like a group picture. Down there.
Down in front with certificates.
Down in front, please.
Oh.
Yeah, right there.
I'm gonna take my keys out of my pocket. Me too. Hide my work keys. I came from work.
You should be like right behind the two,
Students in the front.
put them right in front of you and then like that, and then I can be like,
Here, you can be Nicholas if you want.
oh, I don't, am I supposed to hold my?
It's just like taking a
picture of the 5th grade class. Thank you.
You have to give me the instructions before I leave.
Cal, now you're up.
Crop my pants out earlier.
All right, thank you, board. So today I get to talk a little bit about our K-8 extracurricular offerings, and then our high school is going to talk about our 9-12 extracurricular offerings. Last year, when we were writing our 100% goals, we were looking at ways that we can incorporate the whole child, and one of them that we came up with was 100% of our students at North Basin School District participate in at least one extracurricular activity. And when we were writing this, we had some really big ideas about how we're going to be able to take a good hard look, and then life really happened, and we had some different things. We went through a math adoption. We have different administrators at our elementary buildings. There was a lot of pieces where we had to kind of shift our focus, but this is always a good time to kind of take a look and see what are the extracurricular offerings that we have throughout our buildings, how can we improve, what are some of the barriers that we have, and just how we're going to keep improving on this going forward. And so we do know the positive impacts. When we read these, that it almost sounds like a no duh. If kids are participating in these extracurriculars, they're going to have improved grades because they're going to have reduced absenteeism. They're going to be at school where all that learning occurs, and they have higher educational aspirations and increased college enrollment. These are just some of the positive impacts that we see. A lot of this is kind of written from the high school, but you see it all the way K-8 as well. And really today, what I have for you is just a generalized list of a lot of the different offerings or offerings that are going to be in process from our K-5 buildings and then our 6-8 buildings. I look up here and I see Clown Club, and I kind of want to join that right away. I don't have all the details. I know it's still being worked out, but I know that juggling's involved. I don't know of anything else, but that was something I see that. I know it's going to be at Sand Hill. My daughter is a first grade at Sand Hill. I'm going to see if she can join that right away. Another one that's up here, I know this started this year at Belfair, and I asked Pam Klussman how the participation was. It was one Friday, once a month game club, and she said there's 40 kids participating in this game club. And I thought that was really cool. I want to say Ann, the PE teacher, is in charge of that one, and it sets it up. And I asked, can we move it somewhere from the gym? She's like, well, no, there's like 40 kids that are taking. Okay, it looks like we need to have the gym space available for this game club. Just so we only see 7 up here, and really 6 of them are kind of being offered right now at the elementary schools. There are a lot of barriers to offer elementary extracurriculars. I'll say one, our elementary kids get out at 4 o'clock. That's a barrier right there. That's tough because a lot of kids have some of either pee-wees or other things. I know my kid has dance, and it's tough to get to when it ends at 4 o'clock. So that's a barrier right there. Another piece, if we want to do them in the morning, transportation becomes, because we're picking up all of our high school and middle school students at that time. So there's barriers. I know our teachers and administrators are looking for creative ways to get as many kids involved in these different clubs. So I do have a list of Hawkins Middle School sports, and I was really proud as I was talking with administrators and looking online to just look at all of our offerings and having 10 different middle school sports offerings. I think that's really great. There's a lot of different opportunities for kids to be successful. I know we've had some pretty good success this year and in recent years with our middle school sports. So I want to put a list up, and you can just see for our middle school, here's the different offerings that we have for sports. And another piece, I know that the admin teams and the built teams over at Hawkins have worked really hard on trying, when we were talking this whole child, of having a bunch of different offerings, not just sports. We know about the sports, and we know that those are really great extracurriculars, but offering other pieces as well. So here's a list. There's 12 different middle school club offerings as well. I was able to get the student counts on these ones. It's over 100 kids that are participating in these middle school extracurricular clubs. Just some of the cool ones up there. I see like hockey club started this year. I think that's a really cool opportunity for a lot of our kids. One that jumps out at me, and I still can't believe it's a club, but it's one of the biggest ones, D&D Club, 15 students that are involved in Dungeons and Dragons. So just some really cool opportunities at the middle school, both sports and different type of extracurricular pieces as well. And like I said, this is probably our fastest presentation when it comes to our K-8 pieces, but these are just the offerings that we have so far. We're going to be continuing to work with our administrators and the building leadership teams for different ways to engage our kids. And I'm going to introduce our high school because they have a little bit different, a bigger presentation where they're going to get a little more granular on their pieces as well. So.
Good evening, Board. Thanks for having us, and thank you for your service. I know it's the ultimate volunteer position you guys serve, so thank you. We're going to talk a little bit about our athletics and clubs. I'm going to introduce our new first-year athletic director who's going to speak to you this evening. We're halfway through the year in his new role, and he has quickly proven he was the right person for the job. He's been an excellent addition to our team, and I'd like to introduce Rob Thomas.
Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Board. So tonight I'll be talking about the extracurricular activities and athletics for North Mason High School. So currently we have 17 clubs, which are all very active. Big ones right now, earlier I heard you guys talking about Knowledgeable, right? They've been at 3 different competitions, which is amazing that they're out there doing that. Skills USA, roughly right now we have about 30 to 35 students. Talking to the Skills USA, which is director, which is Gavin Forseth, right? He's hoping that those numbers will start to increase as we start rolling like into the springtime. Marching band currently have 65. We had 65, right? That number is up from last year by about 9 personnel, right? So our band continues to grow. If you ever come to one of our basketball games, like right now, just even our pep band alone is absolutely, it's amazing, right? There are so many students out there, and they're probably some of the loudest students you will see right at a basketball game. DECA right now is at 200 members, 65 actual active members that are participating in DECA right now, but they do have 200 members on board as far as that goes. And then Drama Club right now is down 15 to 30. Talking to Miss Gennaro, right? Once again, she's hoping when we come springtime for when we start putting together our showcase, right, that those numbers will increase as well. Fall athletics. So boys tennis went up from, we had 7 tennis players the previous year. We had 17 this last season, right, which was awesome. So it was great to see those guys out there having a great time. Football, right, we're maintaining roughly about 70 players. Big push this next year is going to see if we can continue to push that number up and push to have a C team, right, which would be great for our area. You know, you start building programs when you can have C teams available. So we're looking forward to that. Girls soccer. They did see a slight drop in numbers this year. We've had some conversations and we have a way forward, so we're looking to increase that to roughly 35, possibly 40 players coming this next season. This spring we'll kind of see when they start playing some spring ball what that looks like moving forward. Girls volleyball, they really good numbers, great numbers at the middle school, so we're hoping when they come over next year, right, we'll continue to see that, and then hopefully the hope will be to have a C team, right, for our girls volleyball team next year, which would be amazing. Very successful this year as far as that goes. Winter sports, which is going on right now. So currently our girls wrestling team continues to increase. They are kicking butt. Once again, we have a girls wrestling tournament this Saturday at our high school. It's called the Mascara Madness. Right there, so currently 10 teams from all different schools right there are going to be there. So it's their last event home is going to be for that one right there. So you haven't had a chance to come watch them, I would highly suggest it because they are a fun group to watch. Boys wrestling is maintaining roughly 30 to 35. I know the middle school, they're sitting around that same number right now. So we're hoping to continue to build those two programs together to get our numbers up at that point in time. Once again, they're doing very well. Right now, they're wrestling in their major tournaments to get ready for districts, and then on to state will be that goal. Boys basketball, so as a C team, right, continue to grow. They have a very big C team. There's an opportunity, honestly, if we continue to grow, that we could probably have 2 C teams. There's a couple different schools that have that availability, and at that point in time, we'd just be going to find games. But we want to continue to build those programs. They're having a really good year this year. We're 7-8, and we've had some close games. This week on Friday, right, if you guys have a chance, right, they're playing North Kitsap. That's one that they can go get, and that should be a good time. That's also mini cheer night, just in case you guys want to come see some guys running around, right? So we're excited for that. And then our girls basketball team, once again, they're doing great right now. They're tied for second in the league. They're doing really well. We're hoping that they can continue to build their numbers once again from what the middle school has to carry over. And then have a C team in the future, because we do have some leagues and that have a C team, and we'd be awesome for us to see that as well. And their next game, just so you guys know, is tomorrow against Kingston. So if you guys want to come out for that. Next slide, please. All right, so here's some breakdowns on like our finances, because I know that's always a big conversation about kind of where money goes. So as far as the money that we bring in, right, so activity cards was our ASB, right, so everybody who plays a sport, right, they are required to, right, purchase an ASB card, right, part of that funding goes to athletics, and then the part of it goes into the general ASB account, kind of split right down the middle. So if an ASB card is $40, right, 20 goes to each one of those accounts. Gate receipts, so that's anytime we take in money for, obviously for events, so in the fall would be football, soccer, volleyball, right now is basketball for, both of our sports, and then wrestling when we do have events, right? So those are gate receipts. So those funds get directly deposited back into general athletics. That is where we pay for our referees, for our school workers, for security, those kind of things. And you can kind of see there that I have it listed. One of the big things to remember is we're getting ready to roll into spring sports. Well, spring sports, we only have the possibility of getting gates if we have a track event, right? Everything else, we don't collect anything for baseball, for fast pitch, right? For tennis, for golf. So we really look forward to getting these at that point in time to kind of help our budget. Athletic participation fees, so that is the fees obviously that they're paying to play a sport, right? So those go directly into general athletics, right? Once again, and that's how we pay out our things. On the right-hand side, right, general athletic expenditures. So officials, right, for all 3 seasons is roughly $32,000. That's so your fall season, your winter, and then your spring season. If we host other events, so like we've done different wrestling tournaments, right, that's a whole nother fee. So we did our big wrestling tournament, a 2-day, during our winter break, and that was about $5,000 just for that wrestling tournament, right, for officials for that event. So officials are expensive. And then we have all of our medical supplies that we purchase for our athletic trainer, right, to make sure, right, we can take care of our student athletes. That gets paid through general athletics. Coaches memberships, right, so we have the the Washington State Coaches Association, which is $50 per coach. Roughly we have 40 to 45 coaches, right, so that comes out to about $2,200. Glazier Clinic is a big one, so that's a lot of football, but they also offer multiple sports as far as like videos and other training opportunities through Glazier Clinic. That's $500 right for the year. They also have some on-sites, so like over in Seattle where our coaches can actually go and get some training on-site, which is good. And then we always look for other conferences for our coaches for as far as their professional development. One thing we tell our coaches, like, if they see something, right, that they think is going to benefit them as far as coaching goes, right, please let us know so we can try to get them into whatever that is, right, because obviously we want our coaching staff to, right, have the most up-to-date knowledge, right, which is going to benefit our student athletes. They used to do a big one in Tacoma, or at SeaTac before. It was the All Sports Clinic. Unfortunately, they got rid of that, and that covered, everything at that point in time. So now we're trying to find a new avenue to get our coaches to continue to do their professional development. Transportation costs last year was $73,000, right? That's just for sports. And that's just taking our bus. Now, if we start looking into charters, which we had to take one earlier this year, just so you guys know, so a charter bus, two charter buses, a big one and a small one to go to PA, costs about $2,600 for that one trip, which is a lot. And then security cost and custodial staff for our events, we're looking at, between the two, about $7,000 between those two. And that was from September 1st to the end of December is what that total was from. And then we have association fees, which is WI, and then our Olympic League fees also. And then we also, anytime a sports team needs assistance or a club needs assistance, right, we will also look at helping them out, whether it's to buy new equipment. Like right now, we need to buy a new soccer goal for our practice field, right? Because during the season, we had one of them that crumbled, right? So we had to get it off the field. So that will get paid for out of general athletics. Anything that, like I said, small things that break, or we're trying to get back into uniform allowances. So we used to have that several years ago, right? That's going to just be getting our budget figured out so we can start doing those things again. But we do, where boosters doesn't help, right? We try to obviously assist where we can to purchase items for our sports teams. So, and that is all that I have.
Rob, are you hearing from students and or families about the WIAA amendments that are coming up?
As far as
Concern or questions?
so, nothing yet. I know that I'm assuming there's going to be some things coming out, but nothing's come to light yet. I fully expect it though at some point in time, because there's going to be some changes. And then one thing I didn't put up there, which I wish of, girls flag football is starting to be huge, right? So we are looking at, that's one of those things right now I'm doing all the research because we hope to bring a North Mason girls flag football team here come this next winter, because it's a winter sport, right, to our area, which would be another opportunity, which would be amazing. So. Yes.
Where'd you get that photo of me? I don't even have that photo. I don't even have that photo.
One slide, please. So I can answer the question, which one is it?
The turkey hat.
Right. I took that at PA.
You took that one?
Yeah,
Oh, before the cup?
That was
Or
at Port
after the
Angeles
cup?
when I had to drive you guys
Okay.
up there. Yeah, before the cup, yes.
Before the cup? Okay.
Yes, before I took the picture of my own cup.
Where'd you get the one of me and Petey?
I got that on Facebook.
Yeah, these are some pretty good ones.
It's on Facebook?
Yeah.
Okay.
Research.
Research.
Rob, I was going to ask that Glacier Clinic. I know they have the on-site, but did you say throughout the year they have like remote options? that
Correct.
can
Yep. They
check
have
into?
several on site, and then you can also go on there. They have a Glacier Drive.
Yeah.
And there's all the nonstop lessons and trainings and all kinds of things that you can do online.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, do we offer that to our middle school?
We do. We
and-
have it on there. So right now, Paula Grandy and Dave are both admins on the Glacier Drive, and then I'm the admin at the high school. So then we can add all of our coaches on there. And I've been
Okay.
adding in middle school coaches and high school coaches on there.
Pee-wee?
We absolutely can
can't
do that.
pay for that.
Because so here's the thing, right? So with that right there, there's not a limit, right? So I would like to, that's something we could talk about.
Yeah, I was just
Because-
curious.
But only for those guys that are, helping, say, like the middle school or the high school.
Yeah.
Not just, the dad who's coaching, his son's team that
Yeah,
doesn't have
yeah.
any. But like if you are involved with our programs at our schools, I'm 100% we can look into that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Just curious.
Anything else?
Not for me, I'm asking for other people.
Oh, cool.
Awesome.
All right,
Thank you.
perfect. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, to
Dan?
looping it.
Well, good evening, Board. I'm Dan King, Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations. And I also want to thank all of you for your service and how much it is appreciated and felt in our community. So thank you. And before I begin with this item on the agenda, just for clarification, Rob did an amazing job presenting and
Skedaddled out of here.
I am so glad that he included, the budget for athletics. But I do want to clarify, there's two general athletic budgets. There's a ASB general athletic. And so those student fees go into there. Those are ASB dollars. There's a general athletic budget that's part of our general fund as well. And that's where we're using funds for the transportation and the clinics and things like that. So just to clarify, and it can get really confusing. And I think he meant that, but, you know, just to make sure that everyone understands, there's an ASB general athletic and a general fund general athletic. So, anyway, what we have before us here is a resolution to transfer interest earned in our debt service fund over to our general fund. So the RCW said it here says we can do this for the benefit of another fund. So the interest that we've earned, going back to the beginning of our current bond, is $162,307.14. So we collect taxes from the community for the bond amount. We're certified for that. So this interest isn't being used for the bond. So we're gonna, for the benefit of the general fund, just shift that and move that over with this resolution. That's the purpose of this. Also included in here is to, for the remainder of this fiscal year, to automatically have those interests that are earned going forward to transfer over into the general fund. So there's, the one part is that $162,307.14, and then any remaining interest earned between now and August 31st would also get transferred over. Any questions about this?
If you put that into the general fund and it's coming from the bond dollars, correct?
No.
It's
It's
interest.
coming from interest on the bond dollars.
That's what I mean. So it comes, the interest from that, and you move it over to the general fund. And what if, like, sometime we needed something extra and we didn't have enough? Can we use money at the end of that, or do we have to wait to move it to make sure we don't need it?
That's a really good question. So besides the interest income in our debt service fund, we also receive state forest dollars into our debt service fund. And we have sufficient amount of state forest dollars in there that, and that cannot be transferred to the general fund, but it can be transferred into the capital projects fund. But that's a whole other thing altogether that we might think about in the future. But for now, we have those state forest dollars in the excess of $600,000 remaining in the fund balance. It would be state forest dollars. So we do have that, but I also want to mention that each November we certify our levy collection and our bond collection with the county assessor. And so we're certified to collect in taxes the exact amount that is owed for principal and interest this year for our bond.
Okay.
But yes, in the event that there was, we didn't, so sometimes we don't collect 100% of it. We have some people that owe us from previous years, eventually catches up. But yes, it is good to have a fund balance in there for those kinds of reasons so that we can ensure that we have enough for our bond payments. We pay our bond payments twice a year. So the first one is June 1st. So we usually pay that the last day of May. And the second one is December 1st. We pay that the last day of November. And yes, if really we didn't have enough, you can transfer money from the general fund into the debt service for the voted debt, but we shouldn't have to do that. We already do that for our non-voted debt because we don't pay that with taxes collected. We pay that out of our general fund.
And that was just for my knowledge, and not that I always see you work ahead and make sure that it's covered. So I just want to clarify that.
Absolutely, it's a very good question.
Just wondering if something happened, I just wanted to make sure that was
Absolutely,
possible.
yes. Yeah, we always make sure we have that insurance, kind of like an insurance amount to make sure we have what we need.
Very good, and
Yes.
great answer. Thank you.
So we need to take action on this. So I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 01G25, transfer of interest earned.
I move that we approve and adopt resolution IG-25, transfer interest earned from debt service fund to general fund as presented.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, resolution 01G25, transfer interest earned, is approved. Very good, so on to the budget status report, Dan.
Okay, thank you. We're going to start with the budget status report for our other funds as of, as you can see here, December 31st, 2024. So here we are, it's late January, and soon we'll have a status report that goes through the end of January, but we're not quite there yet. So we always do a full complete month, so this one is through December. So in our capital projects fund, at the end of December, our fund balance was $352,313. The debt service fund, you can see there's a fund balance in there, and that's after we paid our bond on December 1. So $877,908. So we'll see that reduce by that $162,000 plus, maybe a little more, with this resolution when we meet again next month. The ASB fund balance at the end of December was $432,290, and the transportation vehicle fund at the end of December had $630,685 in its fund balance. So let's look at the enrollment. So the enrollment is our January enrollment at the beginning of when we came back from winter break. And so you can see the trend there is staying pretty steady in terms of, and actually has increased somewhat in terms of what we budgeted once we made that adjustment in October. So our revised budgeted FTE was 2,283.55. And then you can see that our January was 2,293.36. The year-to-date average, which does not include September, because in September we don't have the running start, so it's really October through January, was 2,287.34. And when we add in the 34 students in our TTK, and that's remained very steady, we have 2,327.36 when you include both running start and TTK. And that concludes the other fund status report. And then moving on to the general fund, again through December 31st, beginning with our revenue summary. So you can see at the top on the left, our total actual revenues year to date through December, we were at 30.07% of what we had budgeted. And the projection was 31.54. Our local source revenues were at 39.04%. We projected 38.97. State sources, we were at 30.51%. We projected we'd be at 30.92. And then federal sources are starting to increase through December, 16.76%. We projected 29.42. But I do want to note that on January 15th, we had a very large grant claim that got submitted for our apportionment, and that amounted to $377,000 in federal dollars. So we should see a bump there next time. And then continuing on, we now have our special education grant that was approved, and we're now making claims on that, the IDEA grant. So that's going to make a big difference for us going forward. So because we'll finally start having some revenues that are catching up with our expenses. Our top three sources of revenue, as you can see, are apportionment, special purposes, unassigned, and local property tax. So the apportionment through December was $5,505,785. The special purpose funds, $2,165,383, and our local property tax, really that's half our levy. Again, this isn't the bond. This is just the levy property tax, which goes into the general fund. So $1,511,279. Let's look at our expenditures. Oh, I'm sorry, before that, big picture with our total revenues, you can see the total amount budgeted for the year with our revenues, $44,006,687, and through December we had received $13,237,926 in revenues. Okay, now on to our expenditures. So this shows our projected year-end balance at 2.76%. Our total expenditures actual year-to-date, 24.91%, compared to the projection of 25.05%. Salaries and benefits actual year-to-date at 24% of what we budgeted, compared to the projected 24.26%. And basic ed actual year-to-date at 24.72%. We had projected we'd be at 25.4%. The three top expenditures include basic ed at $6,762,830, district-wide support at $2,437,764, and special education supplemental state at $1,812,181. And then a big picture for our expenditures, you can see our budgeted expenditures were $44,524,338, and our current expenditures to date are $14,951,490. And then on the next slide, it breaks it down even further. It just shows a trend this year and the previous 3 years in salaries for certificated. So to date, you can see our salaries certificated are a little over 6 million, about 6.2 million. Salaries for classified are 2.5 million. And you can see the employee benefits, that's both certificated and classified benefits together at a little over 3 million. Supplies a little, right around 1 million there. And purchase services at 2 million. So that gives you a breakdown, but also a comparison across the years to date. So those prior years aren't full years, those are just through December 31. And then moving on to the next slide. Here we just break out our special education. And in December, we still did not have the IDEA grant approved and active, but it is now. So we'll see some numbers showing up in there next month. But you can see our allocation for the year in program 2100 for special education state, 4.6 million. And our revenues and expenditures to date. And as Amber mentioned, and as I think is pretty widely known across Washington State, and especially in this legislative session, that there's a big emphasis on the need to fully fund special education, included as part of our basic education costs. And here's, we're trying our best to stay within. Fortunately, we have a mechanism called Safety Net can help make up some of the difference. But, we do have here, evidence to show that our costs are exceeding the amount that we're receiving. And when we get the 2,400, that might help out in some of it too. And also there's a timing thing too with expenditures and revenues. So it's really not till the end of the year that we can actually see what our expenditures and revenues were for the year to compare them. It's really hard to compare, in a year-to-date, mid-year, because there's a lot of things that are still getting caught up and what's not. So, but it does give you some idea. Okay, moving on to the last slide, you can see our beginning fund balance at the beginning of the year was $2,705,032. Our budgeted year-end fund balance, what we're aiming to end at, is $2,204,491. And the fund balance at the end of December was $691,375. So that is the end of my presentation. Are there any questions?
The alarm did not go off, so you didn't go for you.
Yeah, that was good timing, though.
Yes, I
Right?
timed it well. Thank you.
Dan,
I can't turn it off, so I'm sorry.
my question, it's not so much of a question, maybe it's a silly request, but is there any way on that graph, if we could maybe put that 0 as maybe a bold line? I mean, I know it clearly
Yes.
shows the deficit in red, et cetera, but I don't know, for us as a school board to be able to see very clearly where that line
Yes.
is.
That's a good idea.
Absolutely.
So-
I can do that.
Thank you so much.
I'm gonna make a note here so I don't
And I
forget.
think you can kind of see this a place there in January where it looks like we're really close to that. Those transfers that Dan made already this month and then the action you took tonight will change that number in the right direction, so. Here we go.
All right.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dan.
You're welcome.
All right.
Yeah.
The legislative representative report. Arla is not here tonight.
She asked me to do
She
it.
asked Dana to give us an update.
Yeah, so Arla first, I do want to say we've been communicating. She signed in and testified on about 6 of the bills that came under levy discussion last week. We had between WASDA, the Board of the Directors Association, and WASA, the Superintendent's Association, we had a really big push statewide to get people to sign in at least pro, which is a way to show what you're thinking without a full spoken or written testimony, because with the legislature now, you can go in person and testify, you can testify in person via Zoom, you can send written testimony, or you can just sign in pro, con, or other. So we have the big 3 that we've been pushing, bills that will improve special education funding, actually that will fully fund special education, bills that will fully fund maintenance, supplies, and operating costs, and bills that will fully fund transportation. So there were 5 bills covering at least parts of each of those that were heard last week in the Senate K-12 Education Committee. And we had a goal between our 2 organizations to have at least 1,000 people sign in, because one of the things that Senator Wellman has worked with us about and said, you know, we've got these other people that'll sign in that don't support public education or that will show up in great numbers, and you guys don't have as big a group as some of those people, so sometimes it's hard to get big numbers. So we were very successful. We had at least 2,500 people sign in pro on each of those bills. On one of the MSOC bills, we had over 3,600 people sign in pro. So we more than doubled any of the negative sign-ins on any of the bills, but really demonstrated how important they are to us. And so currently, there are bills that are live in both the House and the Senate that would eliminate the COP and special ed, change the multiplier cost, to support, and there's some differences between the bills. They will probably, looks like one of them will be the vehicle, and some of the information off the other ones will find its way onto that bill for amendments before it gets done. But we have heard commitments from legislators on both sides of the aisle that they're committed to getting this done this session. So it looks like the things that we're asking for in special education we're going to see, and that's a huge win. I think the same thing when it comes to maintenance and supplies and operating costs. There are 2 very different Senate bills right now that are the main vehicles for the discussion, although there are companion bills in both houses. There is a difference in those 2 bills. One of them raises the funding level for maintenance, supply, and operating costs by 10% over current level. The other one raises it by 20%, which is actually what we really need to get caught up with all of the inflation that we've had over the years. But we aren't going to say no to 10% either. So we signed in, and we asked people to sign in pro on both of those bills so that we can keep the discussion going and keep talking about how do we get to the one that's best. And so that conversation is still ongoing. And then there was last week only a Senate transportation bill that Senator Wellman had sponsored. As of this morning, there's a House bill that is a companion bill that mirrors Senator Wellman's bill, which is very similar to the bill she put forth last year, which takes a little longer to fully fund transportation, spend some time in asking OSPI to create a study and a report to the legislature for them to take action on at some point in the future. Although there are a lot of really good things in the bill, and we really appreciate the effort, there is a deadline for them to finish the study. There is not a deadline in the bill currently for the legislature to do anything about it. So we are signing on and asking that they put a deadline for themselves to actually get the work done too into the bill. So those things are very, very important right now. All three of those topics are being heard in executive session on Thursday in the Senate. House bills are also having some action this week. There was a bill on funding transition to kindergarten today that doesn't really do what we would like to see it do, but at least it keeps the conversation about transition to kindergarten going. And it looks like that conversation is going to be kind of a long down the road thing, so we have a lot of time to get some changes made in that legislation. So I could go on for hours, but that is a summary of what's going on. There are not a lot of opportunities on the big three for us to testify this week. A lot of that is now in executive session. There will probably be more next week. There are some smaller bills in education around individual things that are more important to some districts than others, and things that we will testify on one way or another, but maybe other people won't. And there'll also be some that we kind of go, oh, well, however that works out. So that's where we are.
Very good.
I have a question. So we have heard fully fund education before, and a lot of people got excited. They still kind of think in that way, but it sounds like they're trying to put something in place so that we get a better outcome with this one, but how do you feel about that?
So our organizations decided right at the end of last year's short session that we were going to do it differently this year, and we built a plan. And we knew that we unfortunately, saying broadly, fully fund basic education, we all know where that's gotten us.
Yeah.
So we had pinpointed the biggest areas that we need to be addressed right now, and those are three things: transportation, special education, and MSOCs. And so we started hitting it hard within our associations and then with other associations. We have everybody on board this discussion, all of the lobbying groups, the PTA, WEA, everybody's on board on these big issues that we're talking about. And we're writing letters together, and so with all of those sponsors together, our voice is huge and it's being heard. So this is the first time we've ever heard legislators, the governor-elect saying, yes, we're going to do the big three.
I hope
because
so.
they know that we've been talking about the big three. And for the first time, in fact, our governor-elect said, well, it wasn't the governor-elect, it was the head of the Senate Appropriations Committee said, well, of course we have to pass these bills for special education. Special education is basic education. And we have been saying that forever, but we haven't been able to get the legislators to say that. So we're very, very positive that we will get some big movement on the big three. We will get some kind of bill, so we have to keep pushing to get the bills that we want. But that's all very positive. We still have a long ways to go in other areas.
I'd like them to get rid of the bullseye model of dropping it and then just splattering out. They drew that in our minds in the very beginning. And
Yeah.
that sucked. So,
Yeah.
good. Thank you.
Going on to the assurance of organizational performance and policy review, we do not have any monitoring reports to review. We've got two policy reviews that we went over last month, ER 8 and ER 5. Is there any discussion on those two? Okay. Moving on to the adjournment, Jackie, that was it for the public comments, right? Okay, so I will move on to the good of the order for the board and superintendent. So Dana, I'm gonna start with you. I'm gonna go second.
Well, yeah, I really encourage you, if you haven't gotten to visit any of our fall, winter sports to take an opportunity this week with the home basketball and the wrestling tournament. Our kids are doing great things. There's a lot of an excitement, a lot of parents and family and community members there. And also our bowling team's going to make us proud on the weekends. So I think those are really exciting things. And our bond committee is working really hard. If you get a chance to drop into any of those meetings, anyone in the community, you'll learn a lot about what's possible and what we need, and it's pretty exciting.
I agree. I will go next just to knock the big one out. So, all of us have been hard at work going through the superintendent search. A lot of hours that all of us have been spending. First and foremost, I wanted to thank Jackie and Nate. Have been absolutely amazing for, helping us put a lot of this together, sitting in a room, asking questions, doing that whole thing of the countless hours that you two have spent has been really appreciated by all of us. We're super excited that we've got our top 3 candidates that are going to be here from January 29th to the 31st. The community sessions are going to be from 6:45 to 8 p.m. We invite the community to come out and see the candidates, hear them speak. If they've got any questions that come out before the 28th of January, to submit those in. You can go out on the district's website and find the information for that. There'll be a survey after for folks that are there in the room to be able to take the survey, and we will get the data and review that. But I am super, super excited, and I know the rest board as well, to have Jeff, Ben, and Christine here this week to really see them in person, have everybody in the community and the district to see them and interact with them and get everybody's feedback is going to be amazing. So past that, that's all I have. Nicole.
So in honor of the Board Recognition Month this January, I wanted to say thank you to my fellow board members, especially because we have been going through this together, and I appreciate you all, and I appreciate you all working with me and hearing me out. So thank you. And one other thing I wanted to mention, I am not able to attend, and it might be too late to buy tickets, but this Saturday, our 2007 Fast Pitch State Champions, who were coached by Paula Grandy, who I believe is a teacher at Hawkins Middle School. She was last year. Her and her team will be inducted into Kitsap County Sports Hall of Fame, and I think that is amazing and wonderful. And I'm sorry I cannot attend, but hopefully others can, and we can congratulate her and her team.
Yep. Great. Sophia.
Again, happy School Board Appreciation Month. Let's see. I don't think I have anything to say except for come to the boys' basketball games if you can. We're playing, and the girls' basketball games. I'm here as an advocate for boys' basketball. I'm managing. We're playing Kingston tomorrow. We've got a doubleheader North Kitsap on Friday, Howie on Saturday, and then I feel like the most important one is our senior night against Bainbridge on Tuesday at 7 o'clock.
Very good.
Yeah.
And if you come to the basketball games, you get to see the color guard perform at halftime, in which on Friday the Bremerton had a doubleheader at North Mason, and even the Bremerton student section was cheering for the color guard. Awesome. It's the story is Macbeth, so you get to see the tragic love story and then the fall. For wrestling, there's a North Kitsap wrestling match on Wednesday if you want to support as well. And what was I going to say? The Fast for Ladies. They hold Fast for Nights at the high school for families to come in and get support, because Fast for closes on February 1st, and a lot of seniors don't know what FAFSA really even is. So I was even grateful to go because I had some complications with mine. And they sit down and they take the time that is necessary to get your education straight away. And it's very, very beneficial for the whole community.
Very good.
And I just want to say I voted 209.
Nice. Wow.
Thank you.
That's so cool.
Leanna.
Just the superintendent search is really neat. It's not something that every board gets to do. And it's exciting to hear perspectives. When people come and say something like, oh, I saw it, and I saw the 3 people, and this is my favorite thing about this, and I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about that. I'm like, okay. What I was trying to say before I cried like a baby, that I just totally forgot. But that program down there, that when they get to do something that is like the culinary, and they don't have to do something else, getting a kid into school that doesn't find the need for school, and I'm one of them. As a child, my brain was somewhere else. So when your kid has totally like 25 other things on his brain, getting that spark to happen, you have to get ahead of it. And when like you start out and you get into school and it's like English and math and everything's thrown at them, they already feel behind. So what he gets down there, rubbing chicken, that just sounds crazy, right? But we're just talking this morning, and he gets in the car and I'm like, how'd it go? And he's like, well, we rubbed the chicken and then I guess we put some stuff on it, and like, well, I guess, and they told me how it went, and well, it was kind of weird because of the bones, and I don't know what that meant. But he was telling me about it, and he had steps, and that sounded like he was ahead of it, and that is not common for him. So, wonderful.
Nick.
I just had 2 things. I'll try to be brief, but tonight our theme was kind of the extracurricular activities, and that brought to mind an experience I had this week where I was just talking with a few of the young women from the girls basketball team, and they were talking about some of the adversity that they faced kind of in the middle of the season. A good team, lost a couple of games. But just to hear them, the way they interacted with each other, the way they talked with optimism and with hope and from lessons learned, it just showed a level of maturity that even for adults would be hard-pressed to find. So to hear this from some high school young women that are coming together and supporting each other and empowering each other, I was like, this is cool. I love this. This is going in the right direction. So that was a neat thing. And the other thing I was going to say is just, we haven't seen much on social media about, as far as reactions to the superintendent search, but there's a lot of information and a lot of excitement around the levy. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to highlight, there was, you see those times and you see where, everyone's entitled to their opinion, and there's a lot of opinions out there, but recently, I watched an individual go from highly negative and closed-minded to coming to one of our levy meetings, asking questions, hanging around afterwards, and meeting with the proper people to talk through those disagreements or those differences in opinion. And then they completely had a 180. And I'm not saying that's going to happen all the time, but I just wanted to commend those members of our community that are open-minded, whatever their position is, that are participating in productive dialogue, to look for ways to, we all want what's best, but to see that making inroads and see some progress in the community and see people, having dialogue instead of arguments. I was just tickled to see that. So thank you to the community members that are open-minded and coming to us and helping us to better understand the community needs.
Yeah, good for pointing that out too. That was really cool.
Next up is the self-assessment. Oh, what you got?
So there are 4 of us. present. General meeting behavior, in the interest of time, since we still have an executive session, I'm just
Yep.
going to summarize. So, general meeting behavior, I will mark all of that as satisfactory. And the second part, which is governance principles review, I'm going to mark the applicable ones as yes. And overall satisfactory.
Very good. Well, our next official board meeting will be held on February 24th, right here in the boardroom at 6:30. We will be holding executive session meetings. I'm trying to pull it up. Where we got? We're conducting interviews this week on the 29th, 30th, and 31st. During one of the, 31st. Okay. Gotta get through all this. Okay, and now
We need an
we are
apartment
going to
here.
adjourn to executive session to do the superintendent's mid-year evaluation. So be in there for approximately 15 minutes. We'll be coming back at 8,
31. 8:30.
yeah, 8:31.
Do you know if the parking lot over there is that closed at the bottom?